Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 4th board meeting. Roll call, Mrs. Lunt.
Dr. Cordolino?
Here.
Mr. Daughtry?
Here.
Mrs. Fano? Dr. Modrak?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Mr. Rappaport?
Here.
Mrs. Epperman?
Here.
Mr. Palma?
Here.
Mr. Grau?
Here.
Mr. Joe?
Here.
Mrs. Rossino?
Here.
Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The open public meeting notice, Mrs. Lunt.
The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of the Act, the Montville Township Board of Education provided public notice of this meeting, which included the time, date, and location that was posted at the Montville Township Municipal Building, at the Montville Public Schools, Montville Public Library, the Montville Township Board of Education Administrative Office Building, the district website, and advertised in the Daily Record, the board's official newspaper, on January 9th, 2021.
Thank you, Katine. Why don't we start with you, Elliot?
Okay, so I have sports today, and on April 27th, Montville boys lacrosse versus Randolph at home, and on April 29th, they versus Mendham High School. They also versus Pope John on May 1st at Morris Knolls, and boys tennis hosted Milburn on April 27th, and Montville softball hosted Morristown on April 28th, but unfortunately fell 8-5. Montville baseball hosted Del Barton on May 3rd in the NJAC division play, and on May 3rd, on the same day, MTHS track and field hosted Mendham, Montville baseball hosted Del Barton, and lastly, Montville tennis versus Ramapo, and all these events took place at 4 p.m. On April 29th, Montville Golf traveled to Morris County Golf Club to take on Morristown Beard at 3:30 p.m. Today, Montville Golf will compete at the MCT at Flanders Golf Club at 11 a.m. MTHS softball hosts Kittany at 4 p.m. today, while girls lacrosse will travel to Randolph at the same time. And this Thursday, May 6th, the boys tennis team will versus Mountain Lakes High School at home at 4 p.m. And on May 10th, there will be a spring track meeting versus Chatham High School at 4 p.m. at the high school.
Thank you, Elliot. Any questions for Elliot? Thank you. Okay, Natalie, your turn.
Hi. So for past news, on April 27th, MTTV presented a documentary called Life Goes On, How Montville Township High School is Adapting to a Global Pandemic. This documentary was produced by junior Alyssa Neff and senior Ben Sherman and provides insight directly from the students, teachers, and administration at MTHS about how COVID is impacting their lives. On Thursday, April 29th, MTHS had a virtual induction ceremony for the National Honor Society Spring inductees. Yesterday, May 3rd, Principal Sanford hosted a Q&A on Zoom webinar at 6:30 to keep an open line of communication about senior event planning. And there was also an announcement made about senior events. And this includes that graduation on Wednesday, June 23rd will be a traditional outdoor graduation. And this is Plan A. And Plan B for the graduation would be to delay the ceremony later in the day if there's inclement weather. And then Plan C would be a drive-through graduation ceremony if the forecast predicts inclement weather for the entire day. And the announcement as to what graduation plan will be conducted will be made by 8 a.m. on Monday, June 21st. The senior prom will be on Thursday, June 3rd at 6 p.m. at the Legacy Castle. Currently, only current members of the class of 2021 and a limited number of staff chaperones will be permitted to attend the prom. Outside guests will not be permitted, but if the gathering size restrictions increase prior to prom, changes will be made accordingly. And the senior breakfast, which was originally scheduled for Friday, May 28th, will be rescheduled as that day is now the district-wide snow day give back. And currently the primary considerations to reschedule the breakfast are Friday, June 18th and Monday, June 22nd. And the senior award ceremony will be conducted as a real-time virtual ceremony on Thursday, June 10th at 7 p.m. For future events at MTHS, AP exams start next week on Monday, May 10th, and the exams next week include AP Language and AP Music Theory, and these are the only in-person exams this school year. On Tuesday, May 18th, the digital exams will start, including English Literature and Computer Science. And lastly, juniors, watch your email for communication from Laura's Photography regarding making senior photo appointments. That's it.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Any questions for Natalie? Thank you very much, both of you. We appreciate your input, and thank you for attending, even though we had a meeting last week. Thank you for coming this week also. Dr. Rotar, superintendent's comments?
I just wanted to make a couple of remarks. I know several parents had reached out to me following the governor's remarks yesterday, inquiring as to whether the district would be shifting to full days at some point before the end of the year. We still have an issue which we've had all year long with regard to the supervision of the lunch period for the students, which is not allowing us to accommodate a full day of instruction for the students in person. The governor has indicated in his remarks in April that all New Jersey school districts are expected to provide a full day of in-person instruction in September. And the administrative team has been working very hard to put those plans in place. We fully expect that we will be in-person full day with lunch in September. I'm unable to share any specific details about those plans at this point in time. There are apparently 4 separate committees functioning within the Department of Education currently that are working on guidelines for the districts. I'm not sure whether we'll need to prepare a formal plan, but we are certainly waiting on releasing our own district plan and parameters until we receive that guidance from the New Jersey Department of Education. I'm not sure how quickly that will come. We're hoping that that will be done before the end of the current school year. And as Natalie very wonderfully reported in great detail, there has been a lot of communication coming out from the high school with regard to graduation and prom. And Mr. Sanford has been meeting with the elected representatives of the senior class to help make some of those decisions. We certainly are keeping tuned to any additional pronouncements that will come from the governor's office that might change those plans in any way. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Rotar. I know some of us were able to watch the National Honor Society induction ceremonies last Thursday. It was very nicely done, and I wanted to congratulate all those youngsters that were that were initiated into the National Honor Society, and we look forward to good things coming from them in the years ahead. We have some good news on our agenda, and we would go into the Business Administrator's Report. Mrs. Lunt?
I don't have any reports.
Okay, let's go into committee reports. Finance and Facilities, Dr. Cordellino? Karen? I know you gave one last week. We haven't met.
Karen, you're muted.
No report.
The only committee is CIT and negotiation.
Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Modrak?
Yeah, so we met today, or just before the meeting. We took a look at how the master schedule is coming along, and it's doing quite well. There are a few classes with enrollment that's a little on the low side, but nothing really exceptional there. The class is looking in good shape. We hope to see final soon. We got word that we were awarded several grants which will be very nice to have, including mental health grants, help out with the students. And then we got some curriculum updates for AP Italian, AP Chinese classes. But all in all, things are looking really good. And we're looking forward to hearing how well our students fared through this pandemic later in this school year. That's it.
Thank you, David. I know the policy and personnel have not met non-communications. Mrs. Zuckerman?
No report.
Safety and security, Mr. Rappaport?
No report.
Delegates, school boards, Karen?
A couple of meetings are coming up. On Friday, the Board of Directors will meet. On Saturday, the Ledge Committee will meet. And again, on May 15th, the Delegate Assembly will meet.
Thank you. Morris County School Boards, Mike O'Brien?
They meet on the May 13th.
Educational Services Commission, Mr. Rappaport?
Our next meeting is May 12th.
Drug Awareness, Mr. Palmer?
Should be next Wednesday.
Okay, that would be the 12th, I guess. Montville Athletic Boosters, Mr. O'Brien?
We meet tomorrow night, 7
Okay.
o'clock.
Cedar Hill Liaison, Karen?
They're meeting tomorrow night. I'll be attending.
Hilldale's meeting, I believe, at the end of the month. Joe Daughtry, Valley View?
Nothing.
Christina's not here. Mr. Palmer, Woodmont?
Has not met.
Lazar, anything from, on Lazar?
Nothing new.
High school?
Meeting May 13th.
Okay. MTEA negotiations, Karen?
Yes, thank you, Charlie. So the board and the association have met about 7 times over the past few months to negotiate a successor agreement to one that expires on June 30th. Our meetings have been respectful and friendly, and most recently we believe that substantive progress towards an agreement was being made. Unfortunately, at our meeting last night, the association requested that we go to impasse. Going to impasse does not impart blame on either side. It is a part of the process and one the board and MTEA have gone through many times. The board's and administration's respect and my own respect and appreciation for the staff is public knowledge. And I believed we were close to a fair and equitable settlement. So just on a personal note, I was disappointed at the request. The next steps are that the association will file the request. It could take a couple of months before a mediator is available to meet with us. We hope that that is not the case. However, in the meantime, we are available to continue meeting and we are looking at dates. The board's team remains committed to reach a settlement before the summer ends.
Thank you very much, Karen, for that very comprehensive report. There's no reports on the other 2 negotiations. Public participation?
Let me just note that if you're watching us on YouTube, there are instructions to come over and join us in the Zoom webinar. And that is where you would need to be in order for us to recognize you and allow you to speak. If you'd like to speak on any of the agenda items, if you could raise your hand now, we will recognize you. Nick Conturso?
Yes, hello?
Hello?
Hi, everybody. A couple things. First, I'm not sure if Natalie is still on. Certainly it was good to hear some positive things happening on the high school level, but is there somewhere we could access that documentary that she was talking about? Or is there a link for it that you might be able to share?
There is definitely a link on the district website. So if you, visit our website in the news section, you can definitely find that link.
Okay, great. Second thing, regarding school opening, I'm having some trouble. I'd like to really understand specifically.
I'm just going to cut you off for a second because you will get a chance at the end of the meeting, but this section, we're having questions on the agenda items first.
Okay.
And then we'll open up to all the other questions, okay? So we'll
No
give you a
problem.
shot at the end of it, all right? Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else on agenda items?
I do not see any questions.
I don't see anybody's hand up. May I have a motion on the consent agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
Second? All right, any comments or questions on the minutes, section I? There's not a lot on because we met last week. J? K? L? M? I think that might, hold on a second. And that's it, through the letter M. There's no action on item N. Okay, roll call on the consent agenda, Mr. Slunk, please.
Mrs. Zuckerman?
Yes.
Dr. Modrak?
Yes.
Dr. Cordolino?
Yes.
Mr. Daughtry?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Mr. Rappaport?
Yes.
Mr. Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Grau?
Yes. There's no need for a closed session tonight. Section Q, any old business aboard? Section R, new business? General board comment? Public participation is the opportunity where anyone might ask questions on items that were not on the agenda. I think the gentleman, would you raise your hand again so we can acknowledge you?
Mr. Contorso?
Mr. Condorso?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Sorry about that earlier. So
Not a problem.
My question is just around reopening of school to full day, and specifically, what really is the issue with lunch supervision? Because I'm seeing that our direct neighboring towns, Lincoln Park, Fairfield, Kinnelon, have all opened. They have full day supervision. They're having lunch. I know, talk to families in those school districts. I know there's other school districts that are opening. And I'm just having a hard time really trying to understand that we don't have the supervision, which to me, and again, I mean, no disrespect, but it just seems like a very vague answer. And I'd like to really understand, and I think a lot of parents in town would like to understand, what is the issue with supervision, where why can't, my son has, he's in grammar school, but he has 5 different electives, 5 days a week, one day a week. Why can't potentially some of those teachers act in supervision? Why can't the principal act as a supervisor for lunch? I mean, why can't, I'm just not sure, why can't the school really get together beyond this half day that, again, I commend you when we did that in September, but now we're in May, other schools have opened and are staying opened. And, it seems like there's no urgency to try to get to full day this year, even if it's only for a week, just to see that happen. I think the kids would really enjoy seeing that happen, versus waiting until September.
I appreciate your question. I think that, in prior board meetings, I have given a pretty thorough explanation. I'm happy to do it again. The direction that we have from the New Jersey Department of Health, and the guidelines for schools being open indicate that students should not be together in large groups. They should be in cohorts, which means that we're in a normal year, we would have, a full grade or two of students together in the all-purpose room eating lunch. We are not able to do that this year, particularly at the elementary level. So what happens is students need to eat in their classrooms. Our contract with the teachers also calls for the teachers to have a duty-free lunch period. So we cannot compel our teachers to sit in the classroom and eat their lunch with the students. Now, when you talk about the special teachers, those teachers also have assignments. They have a full teaching load, and we have considered that to be an important part of the curriculum. Some other districts have suspended that instruction. We have not. So the issue that I have is that I don't have an extra adult to put in each and every classroom throughout the district to supervise lunch. And, if we were having everybody in a big all-purpose room, maybe having the principal help out with supervision is a possibility. But when I have to supervise, every individual class, dispatching the principal to do lunch duty does not solve that problem. So we've had numerous conversations about it amongst the administrative team. The way that we constructed the schedule for this year really does not allow us to make those changes. And I simply do not have the staff to be able to cover every classroom at the lunch period. So that's why we are not able to shift to a full day.
But isn't the cafeteria the largest room in the school? Isn't there a way that we could utilize that to our benefit, where even if we combined, each grade, right? I mean, there's only 17 active cases in Montville. Clearly, the township is doing a good job of keeping those cases low. Why can't we build on that? I guess I'm just not sure what the end game is. What are we waiting for? Why does the New Jersey Department of Health advise one thing that all the school districts around Montville can somehow work to getting a full day, to your point with eliminating some electives, but Montville can't?
Well, all I can tell you is that the recommendation that we have from the New Jersey Department of Health is that we are not supposed to be combining cohorts. And when that becomes a factor is if there's a positive case, and a positive case happens in a lunchroom where there are multiple kids who have somehow had contact within 6 feet, we now have a large number of students who might possibly need to be quarantined. We are merely following the guidelines that have been provided to us by the Department of Health, and they clearly say that student cohorts should not be intermingled.
Does that change with Governor Murphy's recent, release, I guess, of so on May 19th, he's opened up everything else. So we can go to, complete strangers can go to restaurants, but the kids who go to the school every day cannot, intermingle. Is that what's the case is?
We have not received any guidance from the Department of Health, and we're operating under those guidelines. So until something like that changes, we are not in a position to be able to accommodate a full day with lunch.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Contreras.
Thank you.
Jennifer Bain?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Hi, my name is Jennifer Bain. I have 2 daughters in Cedar Hill and an incoming kindergartner, also to Cedar Hill, and I am also a physician. I've called into several meetings, and I've actually been on every single Board of Ed meeting for a year. So you're gonna have to bear with me because I'm gonna have to completely agree with a lot of what Mr. Terso just said. I'm going to echo many of his thoughts. I think it's incredibly frustrating as the public to be again waiting for the instruction from the New Jersey Department of Health instead of coming up with alternative plans. If there certainly are multiple plans, which is what you keep telling us, you have not been telling us these plans. And what you're saying is that other schools, are they breaking the rules now by doing full time? Or what exactly are they doing that other school districts are continuing to open up full school day in New Jersey? Montville Board of Ed was extreme. I was actually incredibly impressed in the fall and really happy and proud that you guys made the decision in the fall to start school cautiously in person, but also in person. But then it did take 5 months to get back to 5 days weekly. And at this point now in May, every single meeting, it seems from my impression that you pat yourselves on the back every 2 weeks for continuing to do an amazing job. And yet there's absolutely no progress from our perspective that you're moving to a full day this year. You have completely given up on this year, which is absolutely insane from my perspective. The impression from my family is that we just come and we hear the same exact limitations as exactly a year ago. Exactly. Okay. My husband called in February. He asked about the contract negotiations because many of the roadblocks that we have been discussing for a year have been surrounding contract issues. And when he specifically asked, what are we doing to protect ourselves from the parents' perspective about this upcoming year's contract so that we don't run into the same exact predicament? And now, and he was shut down. Within 30 seconds, he was shut down. Okay. He was literally hung up on by Mr. Grauer at that time and said, you don't know, you can't know, it's behind closed doors, it's against the law. And now we're having this exact same conversation. Okay. We are going through the exact same thing. You are still in contract limitations over the, under parentheses, lunch issue for the upcoming school year. The teachers union is still battling about contracts. And as I personally have said in the past, every single profession has been flexible in their jobs as essential workers. Teachers are absolutely essential workers. I appreciate them every day. And I provide them my appreciation every day. It is still very frustrating to hear that there is no movement and flexibility. And we are again waiting until perhaps the beginning of the school year for another contract negotiation to be agreed upon. Another thing, my husband actually emailed Dr. Rovtar about this, and I think it is important to ask. You're saying a full day, but the last year we've been told a full day is 4 hours. So how do we know that that doesn't mean 4 hours going forward? Because according to what we've been told, we have not been behind in our education. So if 4 hours of education to our children has been sufficient to maintain what we need to support, then how should we as parents feel that your full day in the new year is not going to be 4 years? You have 4 hours. You haven't told us otherwise. You haven't said 6 hours. You just say full day. And right now, it technically is a full day. The last thing is that I actually find it incredibly insane that we can't figure out this whole lunch issue. We spent $800,000 on an air conditioning unit. You mean to tell me we can't spend half that amount on plastic barriers to allow them to utilize the gyms and the school cafeteria? I certainly think that if we pass this off to Amazon, their logistics could figure this out very quickly. I think it's absolutely insane that parents last summer who have the credentials to become sub-certified were told, no, that is absolutely not an available opportunity. And now a year later, you know what? Maybe they should have sat in line, waited to be sub-certified, and because now we're having the exact same issue. So I still don't understand how other school districts around us are continuing to advance their school schedule. And yet we are still patting ourselves on the back that we've completed the school year. It's done. We're now talking about graduation because obviously that's going to be the key take home now in every single meeting for the next 2 months. And then we're going to be waiting again for contract negotiations and from the state. And when it comes to the state, are all these other school districts going against the state, going against what he's recommending? No, they're doing so in their best capability. I honestly, I agree that I probably just stood up here and ranted. I still think it's absolutely frustrating from a parent's perspective, the fact that we're told that our children have the education, but we don't have the time to do testing. So we're going to give the teachers their 1 day off before Memorial Day weekend. I tried to speak efficiently and professionally, but it's very frustrating and infuriating to be hearing the same exact conversations now a month down the line. Thank you.
I'll just speak to a couple of your points. When I say full day, I don't mean 4 hours. I mean a full day. And that's what we're looking at for September. I've already iterated the difficulty that we have with lunch and not having adequate adult supervision. We threw the doors open last August, and asked people to, come and become certified subs. What we can't use parent volunteers. That doesn't work. But right now I can tell you that there are days where we don't have enough substitute teachers to cover all the vacancies that we have, whether it's through absences or people needing to quarantine. So we don't have enough substitutes. I don't have enough coverage to have lunch, unfortunately. In terms of contract negotiations, that is something that we cannot discuss in public. So yes, we're in the process of negotiating a successor agreement, but that is not something that we can discuss in public. I sympathize with your frustrations. We have them too. And I don't think we sit here every meeting patting ourselves on the back. I think it's been a struggle all year. I think we've tried to make the progress that we can. Unfortunately, not all things can be accomplished this year. It is a significant cost in order to provide coverage for lunch. We did build that money into the budget for September. So we will be able to hire that additional personnel.
Next.
Mr. Infacino.
Oh, hi. This is actually Mrs. Infusino. I apologize. I actually wanted to also ask a question about progression, since Dr. Bain did bring that up. We haven't seen a lot of movement in progression over the past couple months. I know in the beginning of the year, we took a survey asking if in the elementary level, we wanted to have afternoon instruction. And I do believe that in that survey, the parents probably were anticipating a lot of on-screen and virtual time. And now we're in a different situation where we are in person and we are only requiring the bare minimum of what the state is requiring for the children to receive an education. There are other districts, for example, Montville Township, who go in person just like we do half a day. Their children go home and their children get back on and do 1 hour of virtual learning in the afternoon. The reason why I bring this up is because, for example, we need to do small group reading in elementary school. So we do small group reading in the classroom, which takes up time from other curriculum that they should be learning, while the other children are sitting on iReady, which is a waste of in-person learning, in my opinion. I'm not really sure why we continue to allow this to go on and why, as a district, we haven't required the teachers to go back on for an hour's worth of instruction daily, every day with the students. I do believe that, I know you feel that our children aren't falling behind, but clearly I think that we must think that deep down, otherwise we wouldn't have postponed our testing. So what are we doing as a district to provide additional education to our children, since we will not be keeping them in full days this year?
Well, I just want to clarify that the decision to postpone the state assessment until the fall was not a local decision. That was made at the state level, and there were a lot of factors that went into that. In terms of the afternoon, I think one thing that people lose sight of is the fact that we still have quite a number of students who are purely virtual students. So while you may not think that it's a big deal for our in-person students to go home and spend another hour on the computer, the Zoom fatigue is real. And I think that it's definitely a factor for those students who are virtual for their entire day. And we do have activities that are going on, instructional activities that are going on in the afternoon. They vary from teacher to teacher, from school to school. We have, made that conscious decision that we are not scheduling an hour of school for every student in the afternoon. I don't think it's a healthy thing for them.
I
With
know, I
regard
know
to
you
our-
don't,
Let her finish.
With regard to our student progress, we are anticipating, Mrs. Woodring will be
not, we
making
feel
a
it's
presentation
necessary.
on that. So you'll get a chance to see where our students stand. You know, the progress has been very typical compared to any other year, and certainly extremely strong, you know, with regard to you know, state and national norms.
So we think that it's acceptable that with the group reading that they really need to progress in their reading from an elementary standpoint, that they're on iReady for like at least an hour within the 4 hours that they're in school. We think that's acceptable.
Mrs. Infacino, the purpose of the public comment portion of the meeting is to allow parents to share their comments. It is really not designed to be, you know, a debate or a dialogue. So we've heard your concerns, and they are duly noted.
Thank you.
I do not see any other hands.
Are there any other comments from members of the public? I don't see any up there.
No.
Since there are no other comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second, moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight, I believe.
Yeah.
2 weeks from tonight. Thank you all very much for attending. And we will see you in 2 weeks, hopefully.